We are on the morning break in the questioning of Hn53, the former detective inspector of the Special Demonstration Squad. He's been questioned about the recruitment of Hn77, cover name Jackie Anderson, about the planned disruption of groups, particularly looking at an annual review of his that said that basically his role was disrupt, undermine, and destabilize the groups that were being infiltrated. Which I thought was really significant. I'm joined by Kate Wilson.
Hello. Yes. Good to be back.
Yes.
It was really significant. It's a very significant document. We got it quite late. Well, I certainly
very late.
Quite late. It's massive. And really enjoyed the questioning this morning. They put some of the questions that I've been kind of sitting there going, why aren't they asking? So they do a lot of asking about, the really obviously bad stuff, like spying on the family justice campaigns, grieving families, and the sexual relationships. But today Hn53 got asked, well, wasn't all of this just completely unjustified? And he got pressed about the political spying and the undermining of groups going about their exercising their lawful human rights. Interestingly, what he said about that document, it was his appraisal. It said that it's worth reading the document.
Yes.
It basically says that it makes some joking references to cultural references that I completely didn't get. Some guy from The Office.
Yeah, David Brent. Yes.
There you go. And talks about how Hn53 has a really basic understanding that policing, any 3-year-old would understand.
Yeah, just he says he does this by planning to impair the effectiveness of extremist political groups directly or in support of uniformed colleagues. Each element of the plan works towards the ultimate collapse of the group, the frustration of street activity, the disruption of funding schemes, the impairment of the effectiveness of individuals, dismantling of international connections, and assistance given to prosecuting extremists in the courts.
So yeah, this was put to Hn53. It was suggested that perhaps this wasn't lawful policing purpose, and he said, "Oh, it's a joke."
Yeah, humorous and light-hearted.
Light-hearted reference to human rights violations by our police force. I mean, it's really important, and I think it really goes to the heart of what this inquiry is kind of pussyfooting around a bit, which is the underlying kind of ideological and political malaise that the SDS represents.
I don't understand why this wasn't put to Mike Dell, who appears to be the author of this document.
It's possible they just hadn't got it processed and it wasn't on Epic yet. I mean, that is the way things are going. I'm
insane when you can say it like that.
Yeah, I know. It may be that the council questioning Mike Dell simply had not seen that document and therefore it wasn't put to them. I mean, I'm really frustrated because they've asked about Jackie Anderson and they've moved on and they haven't raised, and I'm beginning to suspect that they're not planning on raising the fact that Jackie Anderson and Hn53 were in Dublin with me and Mark Kennedy for the May Day 2004 demonstrations, part of the same group. Absolutely should have known that Mark and I were a couple. It doesn't look like that's going to come up.
Well, it's outside of Wales and England, so it's not part of the terms of reference.
It is outside of Wales and England. In fact, all the bits about Dublin have been redacted in Hn53's.
Insane.
I know. It's a tranche 4 issue. The relationship is a tranche 4 issue, so we will be coming back to it. And I'm hoping that we can get Hn53 recalled, but he's an SDS officer, so it's going to be a long shot. Seems
very unlikely. They should have asked him when they had him. So it would obviously be the response that came. But given unwilling officers have been to appear, I'm sure that representations will be made that there's no need.
Yes, and I mean, it's also frustrating because I've basically been killing myself this week trying to get Rule 10 questions in to this process, only to have them ignored. So I'm quite annoyed, but it has been a really good morning of questioning in terms of the underlying. I mean, just hearing it put to him, what was the justification for any of this? And they talked about the international solidarity movement and they talked about Reclaim the Streets and saying, like, why? globalized resistance. Not only why were you trying to undermine these groups, but why were you spying on them in the first place? Why did you have these very intrusive, years-long deployments in these groups? It clearly wasn't justified.
His answer was, well, informants wouldn't have been enough. We only trusted police officers to do this work.
Well, this was interesting because he said there were other ways we could get the intelligence. There were informants, there were technical means. He didn't go into any details, unfortunately. Well, probably fortunately, because it would have led him to But he said, all of those kinds of intelligence require corroboration. The implication being that they felt that their undercover officers' intelligence did not.
Which is something we've seen time and again.
Which is absolute bollocks. I mean, it's the inaccuracies and the exaggeration. I mean, just the idea that these officers could be trusted to be the only source of intelligence is nonsense. It just begs belief, really. And they've all been confronted with, well, clearly this is, and who's responsible for this? Where do these lies come from? Do they come from the officers? Do they come from the sergeants who were writing the reports? Do they come from the managers? And it doesn't really matter. Like, they should have been corroborating this intelligence. I mean, there's like case law that says they have to corroborate intelligence.
Don Ramble finished off his this session of question by repeatedly having to put it to Hn53 about to me it sounds a very believable sort of situation. Had you forgotten how extreme a measure it was to deploy an undercover officer? The fact that you've been an undercover officer yourself, the fact you've been enrolled for year after year, deploying year after year, had you failed to realize how extreme it was to do this, and given the psychological the damage that's done by it, and he said, "Oh, I don't like that." No, it's psychological impact, not always negative, on the officers. And then when it was when it was like kind of brought up, well, what about the activists? What about the women who were deceived into long-term intimate relationships? He just skipped the question. He just talked about the undercover officers, talked about how it was justified, talked about how, well, they were having any job, some people would be psychologically damaged. He said he was looking at the SDS as a whole from beginning to the end. It was justified, and just did not address the issue about the impact on activists at all.
I don't think we know of any marriage that survived an SDS deployment. Just going back to the families, and he was asked as well about this fact that they had to be in stable relationships. Very, very few of those stable relationships survived the experience.
Famously Hn58, because that's the reason why he got anonymity, because according to Mitty, well, the marriage survived, so there can't have been any undercover activity by him that was, a sex relationship.
But you see, I mean, this goes back to why I'm so happy that they asked the fundamental justification question. Is this idea that if your SDS deployment was unexceptional, i.e., you weren't spying on grieving families, you weren't sexually abusing people in your undercover role, then you're obviously one of the good guys. And it's like, well, actually, no. Even the unexceptional deployments here were in violation of human rights. They were unlawful under REPA, like all of this. This is the last SDS manager that we're going to hear from. I mean, we go next step is we go to the people who were signing off on all this, supposedly making it lawful. And what I think we're going to see is a shift in the answers where they start passing the buck back down.
Yes.
So the buck has been passed up and up and up and up. And then I think from tomorrow, we're going to see the buck being passed back down. They weren't telling us, they were lying to us. If I get served a REPA application that's inaccurate, I'm not going to know. Hn53 says in his witness statement that his job was determining that the REPA applications that got sent up were accurate. I haven't heard him being questioned yet about that. But I think that that's going to be a really important question, because when we get to the people who were signing off on this bullshit, they're just going to say, well, we spoke to the managers and they told us this was what was what. Getting at that deserted
Yes,
feeling that maybe we
it's
need
only
to
a
go
short
back
break.
in.
We should head back in. Thanks for everybody who's liked, shared, and commented. Please do. It makes a huge difference to how visible these videos are. We'll see you at lunchtime. Bye for now.